The New York Rangers have obviously had a pretty disappointing season, and with that being said, it is clear that this team is going to make some massive changes in this offseason. And we've already seen that start by firing head coach Peter Laviolette, and this team will obviously begin their search for the next head coach. But we also need to see some massive change with this roster if this team truly wants to be a Stanley Cup contender. I mean, this squad is just not built the right way, top to bottom. It definitely needs some changes. And one way this team can get on the right track is by adding in a true superstar caliber player. And there are going to be some very talented and highly skilled players available in free agency. We already saw a guy like Mikko Rantanen come off the board, though, as he did sign that extension with the Dallas Stars. He was one of the players who was potentially going to be an unrestricted free agent this offseason there, and was a little bit rumored to be possibly, potentially being signed by the Rangers if he did end up obviously hitting free agency. It clearly did not happen there. He's with Dallas long-term now, but there's still a guy by the name of Mitch Marner who is a true superstar level player that could possibly be available in this upcoming free agency. Now, I'm going to be honest here. First off, I don't think it is likely by any means that he signs anywhere else other than with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I think it's pretty clear why. I mean, he's obviously a guy who was drafted by the Leafs there, was a top prospect at the point there, had a great run with obviously the London Knights in the OHL, was a very dominant player there, high tier draft pick, is a Toronto kid, was born and raised there, obviously grew up playing hockey in the GTA there, the Toronto area, has obviously been a really kind of just highly touted prospect for many years, then gets to the Leafs there, becomes that true superstar. So he's been a part of this Leafs organization for his entire pro career. So there is definitely a good chance that, we could see Marner re-sign with the Leafs this offseason. But if he did decide to go somewhere else, the New York Rangers could possibly end up being a destination that definitely makes a lot of sense. And like I said, I think it is pretty much a dream here for the Rangers to get Marner, but dreams can become reality sometimes. Obviously, it happens. And I think Mitch Marner is definitely a player who could really kind of help turn this team around and get it on the right track going forward and really make this team a potential Stanley Cup contender. Now, first off here, we'll take a look at what a possible contract would potentially look like if the Rangers were to sign Mitch Marner. And first off, a pretty good kind of, standard is just the Mikko Rantanen deal that he recently obviously signed with the Dallas Stars. He ended up getting an 8-year deal worth $96 million total. So an 8-year deal with a cap hit of $12 million per season, and has a full no movement clause for the entire contract, start to finish, obviously beginning this upcoming summer. And Mikko is a guy who I think is obviously a true superstar and is definitely right around that level of Marner. I think they're very kind of close players. You could argue, if you want to argue one's better than the other, that's fine. But they're both superstar caliber guys that are very much around the same skill level. And I think this contract, what obviously Mikko got, isn't going to be exactly what Marner gets. And I definitely do think Marner will get at least a little bit more than what Mikko ended up signing for, because first off, I do think Marner is a better player. I'm not saying it's by a crazy amount, but I definitely would say that Mitch Marner is just a better all-around player than Mikko. That's just my opinion. You can let me know in the comment section down below if you think I'm wrong, but personally, I would say Marner is just a better all-around player. Now, obviously, I think you have to consider the kind of Texas situation there as well compared to, let's say, Toronto or obviously New York, where the taxes are definitely a little different there. Not going to dive too deep into that, but it definitely seems like sometimes, a state like, Florida, for example, with the Lightning and Panthers, or Texas with the Dallas Stars, maybe they can have some guys signed for a little bit cheaper. And I'm not saying by like $5-6 million per season cheaper, but definitely a little bit here and there. You can save a little bit extra money, obviously, with some of the players. So it is a little unfortunate for some other teams, but I think that is also one of the reasons kind of why I definitely would expect Marner to get more than what Mikko got. So considering Mikko got that 8-year deal worth $12 million per season, I could see Marner getting 13.25 maybe. I don't think you're going to see much more than that. But for example, if I was the general manager of the Rangers, if I was Chris Drury this offseason, I would definitely, if I had the opportunity, sign Mitch Marner to a 7-year deal worth $13.5 million per season. I would definitely sign him to that. And some fans may call me crazy for that. And if you want to, that's fine. Definitely comment that down below. But when you take a look at what Panarin's deal is and when it's ending, that's kind of why I definitely think I would be 100% more than willing to pay a guy like Mitch Marner that 7 years around that 13, maybe even 14 mil mark. And it wouldn't go much more than that, obviously. Definitely wouldn't go more than 14, but a little bit less than 14, even if it had to be that at 7 years for Marner to come to this team, I wouldn't really be completely against that when you do consider, first off, obviously how good Marner is and how much he could change this team and really kind of help, push this team along to being a true cup contender. But also when you consider that Artemi Panarin's $11.6 million contract, we'll just a touch over that, is expiring next offseason. So by next offseason, that's going to be another $11.6 million, just over that is opening up there, which, let's say Marner ended up making 13 and a half. That's only $1.9 million more per season that you're paying Marner now. And if you also consider how much the cap has gone up, since a guy like Panarin has signed that deal way back in 2019, and you're only paying Marner an extra like 1.9, let's say, or about that per season on the potentially higher end, I think that shows how good this deal could potentially be long term. And I'm not saying, day one is going to be the absolute best contract in the league, and obviously, it's just not, but that kind of shows that it definitely isn't going to be like a major kind of overpay like some fans may think. And that's kind of why if you can go out there and pay Marner a little over 13 mil, under 14, I'm more than okay with it on a 7-year deal. I think that is definitely a more than okay thing. And, for a season, first off, this upcoming season in 2025, 2026, it might be a little more difficult to kind of get around there because I think this team obviously still needs to add in a true kind of top 4 caliber defenseman at least, and a third line center. So it would definitely make things a little kind of tough to really make work there if you do just straight up add in there Panarin. And obviously you definitely have to see guys like Keandre and Kreider dealt away to see the rest of the moves kind of come in as well. But really and truly, like I said, if you can sign Marner to a 7-year deal, anywhere between 14 and kind of 13 mil there, I am more than okay with it. And if you think I'm stupid for that or you think I'm crazy for it, comment it down below. But if that did become a possibility for Chris Drury, I would definitely hope he pulls the trigger on it, because I really do think Marner is a potentially kind of game-changing player for this Rangers team. And although I'm not against seeing the New York Rangers, re-sign and give an extension to Artemi Panarin potentially this offseason, or maybe, just re-signing him next offseason, but Marner could definitely be a pretty good replacement for Panarin there. He can be that guy who comes in and is that top point producer on this team for many, many years, is that true kind of juggernaut of our offense like Panarin has been. And obviously Panarin is eventually going to take some steps back in his game. So even if we do sign him to an extension or sign him, longer term next offseason and re-sign him, you're still going to want to have a guy that is coming in here to be that next kind of guy to help replace what Panarin's going to kind of drop off. And obviously it's going to happen eventually. But Panarin, ends up dropping off next season or the year after that, we'll have to wait and see. But he's getting towards his mid-30s now. So eventually he's going to fall off a bit if we do re-sign him, which is going to happen. So signing a guy like Marner there who's going to be making, like I said, about, let's say 1.9 mil more than what Panarin was making for the last, long while, I think that clearly shows that this could potentially be a phenomenal deal for this team. Anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. If you have enjoyed, definitely don't forget to click that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content, as I post every single day a video about the New York Rangers. And of course, don't forget to comment down below your thoughts as well on the Rangers potentially signing Mitch Marner. Do you think it's possible? Do you think it's even somewhat realistic? Or do you think it's like a 100% guarantee that he does resign with the Leafs? Because I am kind of leaning towards that, but like I said, it's a dream obviously to see Marner sign with this team, but if it did happen, it would be absolutely incredible for this franchise going forward. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next one, and let's go Rangers.